It was a desolate night at the remote gas station, nestled in the outskirts of a small town. The graveyard shift attendant, Jake, gazed out at the flickering lights of the gas pumps and the eerie silence that enveloped the area. As Jake idly wiped down the counter, a peculiar car pulled into the station. Its headlights were dim, and the engine emitted an unsettling hum. The vehicle looked ancient, out of place among the more modern cars. Jake squinted, trying to make out its make and model, but it seemed to elude identification. The driver's side door creaked open, revealing a figure cloaked in shadows. The person moved slowly towards the store, their footsteps echoing in the stillness of the night. The doorbell chimed as they entered, but the figure's face remained hidden beneath the hood of their dark cloak. "Evening," Jake greeted, but the figure only nodded, their face obscured. Something felt off. An inexplicable chill ran down Jake's spine as the stranger wandered through the aisles, their presence casting an otherworldly vibe. As the stranger disappeared into the restroom, Jake hesitated, contemplating the uneasy feeling gnawing at him. He decided to call the police, unsure of why he felt the need but compelled nonetheless. Minutes later, the police arrived, their red and blue lights piercing the darkness. The atmosphere grew tense as they approached the restroom door. With a swift kick, they forced it open, revealing an empty room. Confused, Jake wondered if he had overreacted. But as he turned to apologize, he noticed the store's rear door slightly ajar. The feeling of isolation intensified, and a sinister realization struck him. The strange car was still outside, but the mysterious figure was nowhere to be found. In a panic, Jake and the police searched the surroundings, but the figure had vanished into thin air. As they retraced their steps, they stumbled upon a hidden trapdoor beneath a dusty shelf in the store. Opening it, they discovered a hidden passage leading to an underground chamber. To their horror, Jake and the police officers were greeted by an otherworldly scene. The air was thick with an unnatural energy, and the walls were adorned with ancient symbols that seemed to pulsate with an eerie glow. In the center of the chamber, the hooded figure stood before an altar, surrounded by flickering candles. Their cloak billowed in an unseen wind, adding to the supernatural atmosphere. The ritual they were performing seemed to be drawing energy from the very ground upon which the gas station was built. "What in the hell is going on here?" one of the police officers exclaimed, his hand instinctively reaching for his gun. Jake, still grappling with the shock of the discovery, stammered, "I don't know. I swear, I had no idea about any of this." As the police officers moved cautiously towards the figure, the atmosphere grew increasingly tense. Suddenly, the cloaked figure lifted their head, revealing an otherworldly visage. Their eyes glowed with an unnatural light, and a haunting voice echoed through the chamber. "You have disturbed the balance," the figure intoned, their voice sending shivers down the spines of everyone present. "This gas station was built upon a sacred site, and you have unwittingly awakened forces beyond your understanding." The ground trembled, and the walls seemed to close in. Panic set in as the very fabric of reality seemed to warp around them. In a desperate attempt to escape the unfolding chaos, Jake and the police officers rushed back through the hidden passage and emerged into the gas station. As they stumbled out, they found themselves in a different place entirely. The gas station was no longer in the remote outskirts of town. Instead, it stood at the edge of a desolate graveyard, tombstones stretching out as far as the eye could see. The gravity of the situation sank in. The gas station was a gateway between the living and the dead, and the cloaked figure was a guardian of the supernatural forces that lurked beneath. Jake and the police officers were now trapped in a realm where the boundaries between the living and the dead blurred. The gas station, once a mundane stop for weary travelers, had become a portal to the unknown. The sense of isolation that had gripped Jake earlier was now amplified, and the realization hit him. They were at the mercy of forces beyond their comprehension. As the clock struck midnight, the gas station's lights flickered, casting long shadows over the graveyard. The door to the store swung open with a creak, and a chilling wind carried whispers of the restless spirits that now surrounded them. The graveyard shift had taken on a macabre meaning for Jake and the police officers. They stood in the cold, uncertain night, surrounded by tombstones that seemed to whisper the secrets of the afterlife. The gas station, now a nexus between the living and the dead, exuded an otherworldly energy that sent shivers down their spines. As they navigated through the graveyard, the wind carried mournful whispers and ethereal shadows danced across the tombstones. The cloaked figure, still veiled in mystery, appeared at the edge of the gas station, a spectral silhouette against the moonlit night. "You've trespassed into a realm you can't comprehend," the figure intoned, its voice echoing through the graveyard. This gas station was a barrier, and now that it's breached, the spirits are restless. The air thickened with a foreboding presence, and the tombstones began to quake as if stirred by unseen hands. Jake and the officers felt an overwhelming weight on their shoulders, a burden of the supernatural consequences of their unwitting intrusion. "We need to fix this somehow," Jake muttered, his eyes darting between the officers and the cloaked figure. The figure raised its hands, and the graveyard responded. Mist began to rise from the ground, forming ghostly apparitions that swirled around the gas station. The boundary between the living and the dead was crumbling, and time itself seemed to warp in this spectral realm. Desperation etched on their faces, Jake and the officers scrambled to find a solution. The cloaked figure, its face still obscured, gestured towards a crumbling mausoleum at the heart of the graveyard. The entrance yawned open, revealing a staircase leading into the depths below. "You must descend into the underworld and restore the balance," the figure commanded, its voice carrying an unearthly authority. As they descended into the shadowy depths, the air became heavy with the stench of decay. The staircase seemed to stretch endlessly, and the walls were adorned with grotesque murals depicting the passage of souls between worlds. At the bottom, they found themselves in a cavernous chamber surrounded by ethereal flames. An ancient altar stood at the center, and the whispers of 1,000 spirits echoed in the subterranean darkness. "You must offer a sacrifice to appease the spirits," the figure declared. A sense of dread settled over them as they realized the gravity of the task. The gas station had become a conduit for the supernatural, and to restore balance, they had to make a sacrifice. The minutes stretched into eternity as they grappled with the decision. Finally, a solemn nod passed between Jake and the officers. With heavy hearts, they offered a symbolic sacrifice, hoping it would quell the restless spirits and mend the tear in the fabric of reality. As the sacrifice was made, the cavern trembled, and the ethereal flames flickered. The cloaked figure nodded approvingly, and the oppressive atmosphere began to lift. "Balance is restored," it announced, its voice echoing through the chamber. With a blinding flash of light, Jake and the officers found themselves back in the gas station. The graveyard had vanished, and the air felt lighter. The ancient gas station, once a doorway to the supernatural, returned to its mundane facade. The cloaked figure, now standing in the gas station, inclined its head in acknowledgement. "You have done what was necessary. The gas station will remain dormant, and the spirits will find peace once more." As the figure faded into the shadows, leaving behind an air of lingering mystery, Jake and the officers exchanged a glance. The horror of that graveyard shift would forever haunt their memories, a tale to be shared in hushed tones whenever the topic of mysterious gas stations arose. And so, as the first light of dawn broke, the gas station returned to its quiet existence, concealing the secrets of the supernatural that lurked beneath its unassuming exterior.